Hello everyone, just a quick word from your friendly editor/husband. For all of you who listen to So I'm Watching This Show and own an Android device, do me a favor. Go to the Google Play Store and download the Podcast Republic app. It's a fantastic app that allows you to get all of your favorite podcasts directly on your Android devices. I use the app and love it. I can search for the podcasts I want to listen to, select them as favorites, and have them all just a click away. Make sure you set So I'm Watching the Show as a favorite so you don't miss any new episodes. Again, the app is Podcast Republic, available on your Android device. Thanks!
How does a bastard orphan, son of a whore and a Scotsman,
have you been listening
dropped
to the
in the
soundtrack?
middle of a forgotten spy? That's all I know. No, I have not.
Oh, okay.
That's literally all I know about it. I know the first line because it's been in so many things.
Okay, oh, that's fair. I have been listening to the soundtrack.
Oh, have you?
Yeah.
Oh, now I feel like I should have. I was weirdly saving it. Hello, everybody. I am Will.
And I'm Kristin.
And this is So I'm Watching This Show, your twice weekly pop culture podcast where we talk about movies, TV, music, and more. And as always, this is a spoiler show, so you have been warned.
I can't get over that.
Oh, you'll get used to it.
I don't know that I will.
Oh, I mean, if we have a family meeting and decide to stop doing it, I suppose, but
we're gonna intervention you.
I think it's necessary.
Okay.
You're just going to gradually lose any and all respect for me? Okay, so this Hamilton soundtrack.
Yes. So I started listening to it. I actually didn't even make it all the way through. There are 44 songs on the soundtrack.
That sounds right.
It's a
I think
two
it's
and a half
I think
hour.
it's borderline an opera.
It is an opera, and it's also 2.5 hours long. So I did listen to it for like 2 commutes, I guess. I also was weirdly saving it. I didn't want to listen to it because it was one of those things where I really, really like theater and I really, really like Broadway, but especially when things become a juggernaut like this is, I don't want to see it if I can't see the original cast. Like, I don't think I'll ever watch Wicked unless they do this to Wicked. Like, unless they release a recording of it, just because I want to watch Idina Menzel and Kristin Chenoweth, and I feel like I will be disappointed if I don't.
I don't think they did, so I think they would have to do it now. Like, they would have to rewrite. Because actually, the version of Into the Woods that we watched was a reunion. That was 3 years after the show was on Broadway.
Okay, so yeah. So basically, that was why I had resigned myself to knowing intellectually that Hamilton was excellent and that I was glad that, you know, Lin-Manuel Miranda and Leslie Odom Jr. and Daveed Diggs were in my life. And I was just like content for that. And then I found out they were doing this and I was like, do you mean to tell me that I can watch the stage show with the original cast? Okay. And then I got really excited like on Monday and I started listening to the soundtrack and oh my God, it's so good. It's like so good.
Okay, so my thing, usually, if I know I'm going to see a Broadway show, I like to know the music because typically music is more enjoyable when you're familiar with it. However, there was something about this show. It had such a prolific nature that for some reason I felt like I wanted to experience it as a whole in its entirety in real time.
Like fresh. Yeah, okay.
Do you know, like, I don't know if that was the correct choice. I'll let you know in a few minutes.
Yeah.
It was one that I caught myself early on because growth, Natasha Rothwell gif. It was one of the ones that I caught myself fighting it because it was insisted upon us in the Tumblr heyday. Do you remember? And I was like,
I do remember.
So help me God, if you motherfuckers do not shut the fuck up. And I reached a point where I was like, why am I fighting this? And I stopped. And also I then fell in love with Lin-Manuel Miranda. I found him to be so charming and stuff that I was like, okay, I'll see it. I'll see it. And I was willing to see a touring company and stuff, but it became such a thing that I just sort of kind of put it in this I'll get to it when I get to it.
Sure.
But the thing for me is I actually don't know anything about it. I don't know anything about the plot. I don't know anything about
Well, it's real.
Alexander Hamilton.
Yeah.
Andrew watched the John Adams HBO miniseries. Is he in that?
I would imagine it's only tangentially related because I think John Adams is when they're like signing the Declaration of Independence.
I know somebody shoots a shot, and I think the King of England is gay.
Well, he's Jonathan Groff.
Okay. Carla from season 4 of So You Think You Can Dance is in it.
Is she?
Yeah, she was one of the original dancers.
Oh, that's fun.
3? 4? The season with Kayla and Capono? 5. No.
Yeah.
Oh. Please.
This is not important.
To Hamilton?
No, I don't think
we're going to cover every swing member. Like the understudies, we're going through it all.
I don't think we're doing that.
It's going to be comprehensive.
I don't want to do that. No, thank you. I want to talk about what David Diggs looks like in his Colonial Williamsburg outfit. So
is it historically is it just blind cast? Is it historically accurate, or is this a Inglourious Bastards type situation?
Oh no, it's historically accurate.
Okay.
Like Lin-Manuel Miranda was writing this for like 5 years. Just like researching and doing stuff and like everything. It's accurate, and then it is blind cast, yeah.
Okay.
Because basically, I think a lot of it, he picked like friends, like people he knew. Like I think he knew Leslie Odom Jr.
Okay.
And then he just was like the best person for the job.
Okay.
Yeah.
For contrast or juxtaposition, I wanted the before and after.
Sure.
Yeah. Because apparently the next time you hear us, it will be as if we had a religious experience. So
based on the half of the soundtrack I've listened to, I think that might not be an overshoot. I'm being so sincere. It's so good. One of the Schuyler sisters has a song, and I was crying in the club. I'm not lying.
You said several words that I didn't understand.
You'll understand tomorrow.
What is a Schuyler sister?
There's like a trio of sisters in the show, in the play. Yeah.
So the characters.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And what club were you in that you were crying?
My car.
Oh, okay. I was like, were you dancing on your own?
No, I was like listening to it on my way to work, and I was like, it was getting me in the feels. It was very, very good.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm very excited.
Cool. I'm ready for my eyes to open and the convergence to harmonize. So
yeah, we're not throwing away our shot. We'll tell you that right now.
Not throwing away a shot, right? It's something like that, maybe?
It's so good. It's just like that. It's so good.
I'm snapping off beat. Are you sure you want me to watch this? It could awaken something in me, Kristin.
Join us in the rest of this episode as we off-key do a rendition of the entire book.
So real quick, I'm gonna sing you all of Hamilton. How does a bastard, orphan, son of a whore in the sky...
Stop! Please stop, please.
Fine, but you could have learned something about history.
Okay, so we are back.
Yay!
I'm very conflicted because I feel the need to perform for this show. You know, we're doing a review show, and so I feel like there are certain expectations. And when I feel like I'm not meeting those expectations, it makes me feel like I'm doing something wrong, like I'm bad at my job or whatever. But at the end of the day, we're just supposed to talk about, you know, what we thought and how we felt. And so, you know, that's what I'm going to do. And I think there's going to be a lot of parsing stuff, but I didn't particularly like it all that much.
Okay.
Having said that, I have not particularly liked a lot of things that went on to become favorites of mine. Famously, my favorite musical is Into the Woods, and I hated it the first time I saw it. I just felt like it was an affront to everything I believed in. And at 13, you know, but over time, I came to understand that was what I loved about it. And this is one of those things that I think on surface level seems like it would be extremely in my wheelhouse. But as I was watching it, I was like, oh, it's only marginally in my wheelhouse.
Sure.
So I kind of want to be like, anyone who really loves this, come back later.
Yeah, okay.
But that since we can only review this, for the first time once, I'm not throwing away my shot. So yeah, it was fine. I thought it was fine.
Well, I loved it.
Did you? Okay.
I did. I loved it.
What is that?
A lot.
Like, and I'm not being cute. What is that like? Like what explain the process.
Well, okay, so I think I mentioned in the little intro that I had started listening to the soundtrack earlier in the week.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't necessarily think that played a huge amount into it, but I think a big part of why I liked it so much is just because it is so impressive.
Yes.
I do not understand the type of brain that you have to have in order to make this happen.
It's like puzzles. It's akin to working out a puzzle.
Yeah, but I'm like okay at puzzles. Like, I don't know. It is fascinating to me to know that there are people in the world who are like, Alexander Hamilton was a kind of interesting guy. I'm going to write a 3-hour rap musical about him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is wild. And so many different genres, too.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's, like, ballads in this.
It was like watching a Swiss watch.
100%.
Operate. That very little of my hang-ups or issues with it are the artistry or the technical skill.
That was especially what I was responding to, I think, is just not only watching the actual creation happening, but then watching all of these people who I had never actually experienced in a stage show before be at the top of their game. Like, I've seen all of these people act in something else for the most part, like a TV or a movie thing. But this is, like, obviously all of their wheelhouse in such a way that it almost renders all their other work totally pointless. like why would you did this, why are you gonna keep going?
You were that enraptured. Wow. Okay.
It's so good. And so I do have a couple of issues. I definitely think all of the showstoppers are in Act 1.
It's something that happens a lot in theater, but it sort of is like, okay, well, let's talk about this news story,
right?
Like,
and so I just was like, it wasn't bad, and I definitely still liked it, and I enjoyed the fact that like 4 of them were playing 2 characters, so I liked that there was still Daveed Diggs in the second half and stuff like that. But I guess Act 2 was a lot more, well, it was sadder for sure. All of the sad shit happens in Act 2. And it just was like a lot more staid, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
It just was like a not as bombastic and fun and interesting as the first act. Especially, I mean, for all intents and purposes, I am now nothing more than a Renée Elise Goldsberry stan. So,
Angelica.
Or Goldsberry. And now I forget her last name. Yeah, Angelica. She friggin' blew me away. Especially the song Satisfied from Act 1.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that night, I just might regret that night for the rest of my days. I remember those soldier boys tripping over themselves to win our praise. I remember that dream like candlelight, like a dream that you can't quite place. But Alexander, I'll never forget the first time I saw your face. I have never been the same. Intelligent eyes in a hunger pang frame. And when you said hi, I forgot my dang name. Set my heart aflame, every part aflame. This is not a game.
Strike me as a woman who was
I lost my goddamn mind when I was listening to it in the car last week. And then
You were in the club.
I was in the club. And then actually watching her do it was something even more it would like transcendent. I didn't even like, I couldn't feel my body anymore. It just was like so good. And that whole double song where Philippa Sue sings Helpless and then it like rewinds and she sings Satisfied, but like Philippa Sue is still in there with Helpless. I just like it's bonkers to me that worked.
Seat of his pants. Handsome boy, does he know it? Peach fuzz, then he can't even grow it. I want to take him far away from this place, then I turn and see my sister's face, and she is helpless. And I know she is helpless. And her eyes are just helpless. And I realize 3 fundamental truths at the exact same time.
Where are you taking me?
It sounds insane. It sounds like one of those things, like when what's his face came to Renee Zellweger for Chicago, and they both reached for the gun, and she was like, "Well, I don't know what is going on here."
Reading the script,
yeah.
She was like, "They both reach for."
Exactly, and it's the type of thing where like I can only imagine what the like audition process was like for this show, and to just be able to presumably totally convey what Lin-Manuel Miranda was hoping to show in that scene. It's insanity to me.
Mm-hmm. In hindsight, I do wish that I had listened to the music first. I think that would have taken a huge weight off of my shoulders, because and that's where I'm getting to a lot of my issues I had with it was more me issues with a first time viewing, because I thank the sweet Lord that we had the captions on.
Will said the same thing.
Because I would not, I mean, as is, I think I followed like 2/5 of it. And
yeah.
I know I'm supposed to know the story because I learned about these people, but I wasn't really interested in them when I learned about them. So it's like a lot of the words just merge into like a nebulous old-timey thing.
Yeah, well, it's also so dense. It's so dense, and it's so like, I know this isn't a word, but it's like thesaurical. It's like,
we'll make it works.
Yeah, it's really, really fascinating, the wordplay, because I know we've talked about it before, that you really enjoy wordplay in certain things, like the withers wither with her, and it's like,
it was like me watching Arrested Development the first time, where I was registering what I knew what I was watching was clever and even meant to be funny.
Yeah.
But I was frustrated at the fact that I was 2 steps behind. It's the part of me that can't play Jeopardy, because I only understand the question after I get the correct answer. And then I'm like, oh, well, yeah, I knew that.
Right. No, I totally understand.
With myself watching it.
Yeah. No, I completely understand that, because especially, like I said, I have listened to most of Act 1 before we watched it. So that could also be why I enjoyed Act 2 less, because I didn't already have that familiarity with it. But I just was like top to bottom impressed with it. I also think the set was incredible, and the way that the like spinning like floor, the spinning stage floor,
that was cool.
Very cool. And the way that they used it for certain things only, the choreography, I mean, I was just impressed across the board.
I had one more point I wanted to say before we talk about a few specifics, because I don't think this is going to be a long episode, but I call it the scary movie conundrum. And it's the thing that happens when you are more familiar with the satirical work than the thing itself. And so it's like, I saw the scary movies before I ever saw the movies they were lampooning.
Sure.
And so it's like, I am so familiar with all of the material teasing Hamilton that it sort of took the piss out of it. I kind of was having a hard time taking it seriously.
Oh, okay.
Is the point of Hamilton that Alexander Hamilton kind of sucks?
I mean,
that was the message I was getting.
It's not the point.
Okay.
I think the point is that Elizabeth Schuyler was a goddamn saint who put up with so fucking much.
I was like, sweet Jesus, because that was the other thing, is it was like I was having a hard time not blaming the artists of the production for it being so cliche, because I know it's history, but I was like, I just sort of kept rolling my eyes, because I found the beginning, it was too much, and then I found him and the boys insufferable.
I mean, a little, yeah.
And so thank God when the Schuyler sisters showed up, which again, very me, very on brand for me, but I thought they added a jolt that the show needed at that point.
Well, I mean, I think they are absolutely the heart of the show.
And I figured just one of them was going to end up being consequential. So it was nice when the two of them did. I did wonder where the fuck Peggy went, but
I think she was sort of inconsequential. And then that actress had to play Mariah.
Brontes matter, you know?
Yeah, they've got a Brontes coming out our ears. There's only so much time.
I found Alexander to be tedious.
Yeah, no, I agree. I 100% agree with that. So I read Linda Holmes' review of the movie before I watched it as well. And she had a couple, she obviously mostly really enjoyed it, but she had a couple of caveats, one of which is that Lin-Manuel Miranda doesn't suit really movie acting. So he is obviously overplaying it for the theater audience, but it is so much. And I love him to absolute bits. I think he's just one of the best people around and so creative and so smart and everything. But like, he was really, really playing to the rafters.
Yeah. Because that's another thing. It's like, considering that my foundation is in live theater, I have recently come to the conclusion that I am actually only marginally a theater person.
Yeah.
Because I was finding a lot of it, and I'm going to use a word that I hate, but I was finding a lot of it kind of cringy. I was kind of like, oh.
Yeah, a little bit. It's the thing where I really, really love live theater, and I love how fortunate I've been to be able to see so much live theater in my life. That being said, it is without question my least favorite form of acting. Because
watching adults play pretend. Yeah. And at a certain point, you're kind of like,
because you do have to be so broad and large with your face. It's not, there's no nuance to it in a way that like movie and TV acting is way more about like micro expressions and stuff. And I just find the nuance of that to be so much more realistic, obviously, that like as much as I do love theater, it is a lot to look at these faces doing things so huge.
I truly believe that if I spent more time with this, I will like it a lot more and potentially even love it, because I do love how abstract live theater allows you to be. Yes. Because it happens in Jesus Christ Superstar, where it's like they're very aware that they're telling the story of the last, like, because I forget who, but someone calls Judas a Judas. They're like, you Judas, and it's like, that's not a thing yet.
Yeah, he hasn't done it yet.
Alexander's like romanticism of the revolution. It's like he understands within the show, the course of the plot. It's like he understands the historical relevance of what is happening.
Sure, it's almost like it's like he's come back from the future to understand how important it is that he do these things.
And for me, it just made it kind of like, it made me not like him, because I'm like, this is stupid. You have no idea what you're doing.
Right.
And I feel like Ewan McGregor's Christian's father from Moulin Rouge. I'm like, your ridiculous obsession with revolution. Yeah. You know, like.
No, I definitely agree with that. I would honestly say, I mean, in my opinion, Alexander Hamilton is the least likable person in this play.
Sure. The leading man syndrome.
Yeah.
If we're going with my favorite, and again, because it is actually not either of the Schuyler sisters. Yeah. It is King George.
Yes, obviously King George. Jonathan Groff is something else. Putting on that stupid posh British accent, because he's like, it's like I mean, I don't even know how to explain it. It's like a Star Wars villain, or like a Bond villain or something. He's like swallowing half his consonants and stuff. It's hilarious.
But even the attitude, the fact that he's so poncy and so over it, like, I just really connected with that character.
It was so funny. And I also love, there's the one line specifically where he's like, and if you don't do what I'm telling you, I'll send a battalion to murder you for my love, or whatever. And I just was like, Jesus Christ.
You'll be back, soon you'll see. You remember you belong to me. You'll be back, time will tell. You remember that I served you well. Oceans rise, empires fall. We have seen each other through it all. And when push comes to shove, I will send a fully armed battalion to remind you of my love. Da, 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 da,
It comes out 3 full times. And it's just like, I honestly am desperate to see a proper movie production of this.
I would be too.
And that is a tall, tall order because there's several ways you can do it. And I believe 1, at most 2 of which are correct.
Yeah.
And the likelihood of nailing those is slim.
It's fine. Rob Marshall will get it. It'll be great. It'll be so good, I promise. It'll just be a bunch of people in revolutionary outfits standing in a room singing to each other.
We have that. Because it's like, I mean, I hate to go all the way to 100, but it's like, I think when you consider how actually intricate and jammed pack, like to the gills this is, you need something along the lines of a Baz Luhrmann. Like, and the King George is something that I would have the hardest time translating. Like, how do you put that into a movie?
Well, I mean, with Baz Luhrmann, he honestly would probably have him come up in like a really tacky, like 70s, like head bubble on the side.
No, I didn't even think about that.
I mean, it would honestly, that would be hilarious, I think. But yeah, it just depends. Or it would just like cut to a different room with like him writing the actual letter. But
You use a digital vista across the Atlantic into zooming into.
I don't know. I would be really, really, really interested to see a movie. I think there's a lot of fun things that could be done.
So I was this is not my preferred style of theater because this is the way Chicago is done as well. And I hated that. I much preferred the movie. I was starving for color for a costume.
Sure.
And we got a couple pops.
Yeah. So it is like, it's a very active set and there's always like a company behind them. It's never just the like stars. There's always a chorus, but it is a very stark set. And the choral outfits are also just white.
I love the spinning the disc on the stage because the rewind that knocked my socks off when they did that.
Good.
And then they did it again with Hurricane.
Yeah.
And that was really very impressive to the point where for half a minute, my mind was like, I'm watching a digital effect. Never underestimate the ability of like the human body. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like,
it's the thing I can't stop thinking about. And I already couldn't stop thinking about it after I just listened to it. And now having seen it, I cannot get out of my head the helpless, the rewind, and the satisfied. I don't know that I've ever seen something that was so perfectly placed and so exactly what it was meant to be. I just like, and even because I was following along on Twitter last night, and even Lin-Manuel Miranda was like, I will never top Satisfied for the rest of my life.
I need to listen to it again. I've heard it like, literally once. So
shit. It's just so fascinating. It's so good.
And their relationship between Angelica and Eliza was nuanced in a show that had a lot of, men stomping around.
Yeah. There were 3 duels in this fucking play. 3.
What were any of them about? I literally have a note that was like, explain to me what the duels were about.
Okay, so the first one with Hamilton and George Lee, it was but it was Anthony Ramos. I forget, George Lawrence, or somebody Lawrence and Lee. They were fighting because after Lee like lost a battle, he was like talking shit about George Washington, and Hamilton was like, I'm not going to stand for that. So go duel him. And then the second one.
But you were supposed to shoot the sky?
Well, no, that's sort of like your mark to say, I'm actually not doing that. I'm like actually not going to shoot you. But we got here.
But that's a risky game.
Yeah. That's why it doesn't work
Pay
out
off ever?
twice.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the second one was the one with the sun, right? And that one was because some guy was talking shit about Alexander, and the sun was like, I'm not going to stand for that.
That's the other weird thing about the several cast members playing 2 roles. With all of them, I preferred their second role.
Oh, interesting, because I really liked Lafayette.
No.
I mean, I liked Jefferson so much too, but I really liked
so much
Lafayette.
more. I like Jefferson because it just I like the notion of playing. I don't even know how to describe that type of character. Like he was just and that's like, I mean, they're all attractive and like okay. I was about to say David Diggs is very attractive, and I was going to be like, well, they're all attractive. Yeah. But in particular, him as Jefferson was working for me.
No, it was working pretty hard for me, too, in that, like, purple silk waistcoat.
Well, and he was slightly poncy, but also, I don't know.
Well, he had, like, been in France for a while, so it was like, no, I dug it, too. Okay. He was very funny. And he had, you're right, him as Jefferson had, like, a lot more good lines, because... Yeah, I know. I agree with you. I think his Jefferson was better. I just did also like Lafayette.
It's when someone steals the show and at first you're like, wow, I never could have predicted. And then you look back and you're like, there's no other way this could have gone.
Of course.
You know what I mean? Like,
of course.
Because he got applause on his entrance. We need to change our Lynn Redgrave joke and turn it into David Diggs. But
you're like David Diggs. You get applause on your entrance.
I hated Say No to This and the Mariah story.
Yeah, I mean, it's true, but...
It was horrible. It was just, ugh.
Yeah, it's super icky, and it's also like, I mean, as much as I love Lin-Manuel Miranda, a ladies' man, he is not.
No,
like, half of his personality in public and on social media is how much he loves his wife and kids, and it's just like, I don't believe you.
I'm just watching this and I'm like, put your dick away and help this woman who needs help. You know what I mean?
Right?
And she's just in like red satin. And like the whole thing, you can tell it's like from his perspective. It's like his memory of it. I just was like, ugh.
Yeah, no, it's not great. It's not great at all.
And I do love the flex that by the end, spoiler alert, he dies.
You find out in like the first minute of the show.
I love the flex of ending the show about him with just this laundry list of his like put upon wife's accomplishments.
Yeah. In addition to raising 8 children, I like, good Lord. Because you literally were like, where's her rap opera? And I was like, yeah, that's a good question. Philippa Sue could carry a show.
Yeah, she was my takeaway as well.
Mm-hmm.
I had heard that there were 2 F words that were cut from the show. And at first I was actually furious. And in seeing the show, and also with no point of reference to the actual show, so they might have edited it and I don't know. It felt very non-touched.
I noticed where they both were supposed to be, and they mostly just garbled them.
Yeah. And so I ultimately ended up being fine with that. But censoring art in general, but especially censoring certain works of art, actually makes my blood boil.
Yeah, me too.
I don't care if you're on Disney Plus. The children can handle it. If they're willing to sit through a 3-hour rap opera about hip opera about a historical figure, they can handle the F word twice in ways that they probably wouldn't even clock it. Or
100%.
I understand standards. I absolutely do. And I am not proposing a free for all, but I just feel like when, it was like when CeeLo was nominated for Grammy for FU, and they wouldn't let him actually perform the song. And I'm like, at the Grammys, you should be able to sing the song you're
nominated for.
Yeah. And I think there should be contexts to things. And I feel like it does it such a disservice because it's like, what, suddenly with those 2 bad words bleeped, now it's fine for kids?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about this show specifically is I don't think it's inappropriate for children because it also is pretty historically accurate. But I mean, not the language, not like the words, but the content is pretty historically accurate. And so I don't necessarily think it's for kids, but I certainly don't think it's going to damage kids in any way outside of what...
This is how they figure out what this stuff is.
Exactly, and that's the kind of thing that makes me so annoyed, where it's like, there were certain things I was not allowed to watch as a kid, and I understand why, and I like mostly understood at the time, but it's the type of stuff that, like, when I watch it now, I'm like, I don't know that I would have understood that when you wouldn't let me watch it. So by not letting me watch it, I only understood that there was something to understand.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, by censoring that kind of stuff, all you do is tell the person there's something more interesting that you're hiding.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what's very frustrating to me, especially to children, because what do you think the first thing all of these friggin' Gen Z kids are going to do is use your iPad and go look up an uncensored version of this song? Like, I don't know. It's like, that's the stuff that frustrates me.
There is proper children's entertainment that I think is more offensive than like the original Broadway production of
Hamilton.
Like, so it was kind of like how you said that your parents would let you watch a movie if you read the book first.
No, that's not really.
I thought you said.
No, my mom would let me, if she was at all concerned about a book or movie, she would watch it first and then let me do it.
Oh, one of my friends' moms would let them watch any movie as long as, like, based on a book, as long as they read the book first.
Yeah, that was not me, but basically she just wanted to be prepared if I wanted to talk about it. Like, if I had questions about, questionable content, she wanted to know what she was going to have to deal with. And
that's ultimately it, is that, like, we need to stop being so precious with our children and with our world. I mean, you need to be prepared to, like, be like, okay, well, this is what this is, and this is why it's right, and this is why it's wrong. And so ultimately I found it to be fine, but
I want to know what happens after you watch it with, like, Andrew and then your mom. Because I think in like 3 weeks, you guys are going to hear an episode where the intro is, I watch Hamilton 3 more times and I love it now.
Probably. Yeah. I said that. And I absolutely, I mean, I didn't hate it. It just, it weirdly, and it did also suffer from that thing twofold. Number one, my knee-jerk reaction to be contrary, because everybody loves it so much. I kind of had a bit of a impress me.
I mean, I went into it a little bit like that, where I was like, there's no way it's as good as everyone's shitting all over themselves. And among
so many of your most basic friends, it's like,
yeah. Well, I feel like our most basic friends might not get it completely. They just are like, oh my god, no, it's so good.
But, and then the other thing is, there is a part of me, it's the Rocky Horror thing for you, where there was a part of me where I was like, this is it? Like, this is the thing. No,
I definitely get that. And it's, I mean, because that's a similar vibe to, like, why, I didn't really like Spinal Tap. Because I was like, I already know all the stuff. Like, it's not, but that's the thing about this, is I didn't actually know all the stuff that I thought I knew. And that was what made it so much more impressive to me.
So, yeah, I absolutely believe that the music will grow on me. And I will probably end up liking it. But my initial reaction was, that was fine.
Yeah.
So
I've already talked about the part that was my favorite. And I'm sure that me just continuing to gush about it will not be interesting. It's just like, man, I mean, that is literally, it's one of those moments that I think I'm going to remember the first time I watched that for the rest of my life. Because it was just such a perfect storm of lyrics and placement in the show and the actors who were doing it, and it was just 100% across the board, 100%.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, well, obviously Hamilton is now on Disney Plus, so if you haven't checked it out in the first wave that I'm surprised didn't crash Disney Plus last night, you can watch it at any time. I think it's gonna just live there. So other than that, you can follow us on Twitter at So I'm Watching, Instagram at So I'm Watching This Show. We also have a website, soimwatching.com, that links out to everything. And other than that, you can rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes or wherever you listen. And that's it for us.
Cool.
Bye.
How does a bastard, orphan, son of a whore and a Scotsman, dropped in the middle of a forgotten spot in the Caribbean by providence, impoverished and squalor, grow up to be a hero and a scholar? The $10 founding father without a father got a lot farther by working a lot harder, by being a lot smarter, by being a self-starter by 14. They placed him in charge of a trading charter.
And every day while slaves were being slaughtered and carted away across the waves, he struggled and kept his guard up. Inside he was longing for something to be a part of. The brother was ready to beg, steal, borrow, or barter.
Then a hurricane came and devastation reigned. Our man saw his future dripping down the drain. Put a pencil to his temple, connected it to his brain, and he wrote his first refrain, a testament to his pain. Well, the word got around, they said this kid is insane, man. Took up a collection just to send him to the mainland. Get your education, don't forget from whence you came, and the world's gonna know your name. What's your name, man? Alexander Hamilton.